All right, welcome back to the weekly recap special edition BTFD. My name is Andrew Kuhn, Focus Compounding. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. If this is the first time you are tuning in, hit that subscribe button, thumbs this video up. We are pumping out a ton of content. So in today's video, before we jump into it, let's go over the week. Special edition BTFD, apparently because the market was up 12% this week. And while it seems like the only news that we're getting out right now is doom and gloom, the market seems to shred it off. So apparently if you just buy the dip, you will be okay. Obviously that's just a joke. If you listen to the podcast, you'll know that we think the market is being a little bit too optimistic. You know, we're not market timers, we're not even macro guys, but just from looking at a bunch of different companies, it's, pretty easy to see that it's going to take, maybe a year or two for things to get back to normal. That being said, of course, there's a lot of opportunities out there, especially with the market falling. So if you can find a business that is quite solvent and can withstand everything going on right now in the economy and the slowdown or the shutdown, and it looks cheap maybe based on 2021 to 2023 numbers, that's definitely a company to consider. So before we jump into everything today, we're going to be going over the paid content that we put out this week. I know it's paid, I don't want to make people upset, but we provide a lot of free content, so I'm going to plug it. Geoff wrote about Hamilton Beach brands, and the title was A Simple Business and a Super Cheap Stock Facing a Tough Cash Situation in 2020. He then wrote up Middle B, ticker MIDD, with the title being A Serial Acquirer in the normally, he put normally in parentheses, super steady business of supplying big restaurant chains with kitchen equipment. And then the last stock that he wrote up this week behind the premium wall was Miller Industries, a pretty good but very cyclical business that sells its car wreckers and car carriers through a loyal distributor base. If you want to get access to this content, go to focuscompounding.com, and if you sign up, use the podcast promo code, which is podcast. I'll probably end up making one for YouTube. What that will do is it'll take the normal $60 a month subscription price down to $50 a month. You can cancel whenever you want. Of course, we hope that you don't, but that's where all the content is. All right, enough with that. Let's talk about the market. So the market closed up about 12% this week. There was a lot of things that came out. The Fed announced that they are throwing the kitchen sink at the market, $2.3 trillion in liquidity. Spent a lot of time going over this on the podcast, so definitely take a look at that. Obviously, everything going on with the quarantine right now, there's not a lot to do. So I thought I would spend today's video going over 10 books that I would recommend for you to read during quarantine. I'm not so big on investing books anymore. Maybe in the earlier days of getting into investing, I was, but nowadays, a lot of my reading really lies in just reading about different businesses. At a certain point, you got to put the investing books away and start reading practical case studies, which means reading 10Ks, reading 10Qs, reading transcripts, and reading business books. All right, first book that we're going to be going over, Black Edge. This book is incredible. I read it a couple years ago. I would definitely recommend it to everyone. If you are into markets, trading, stocks, it doesn't matter. This book is a fascinating read. I wouldn't even qualify it as a business book, but if you like, just books on like what really happened in the markets based upon real characters, Stevie Cohen at SAC Capital, I would definitely recommend it. Kind of weird. Apparently this is Congress's favorite book. I really have no idea why. Black Edge, but it's all about insider trading and everything that was going on at SAC Capital. Definitely an entertaining read, so take a look at it. Next book, we can go down to the actual business books. That Will Never Work. This book came out, I think this past year, and I actually listened to it on Audible, which that's something I wanted to talk about. If you're like me, there's times for active reading, and then if you want to be more casual with your reading, I really recommend Audible. I listen to books all the time, but if I'm reading something more technical, obviously it's probably better to read the book itself. But this is about the start of Netflix. Obviously, everybody loves Netflix. When you think about Netflix, you probably think about Reed Hastings, but the author, what's his name? I'm so bad with authors' names. Mark Randolph. He was actually the one that started Netflix. So, I definitely recommend it. It's about the early days and bringing it to the business that it is today. Reed Hastings, he says on the back, it's engaging and insightful, but this is a great book. I would definitely recommend it to everybody. It's more of a casual reading. So if you are looking for like more of a relaxation type of reading, I would definitely read this. Put it on Audible, kick back and read it, and it's a good book. All right, next book that we are going to be going over, Super Pumped, The Battle for Uber. I would definitely recommend this book. It was a fun read. Obviously, it's about Travis Kalanick and starting Uber. Really enjoyed the book. Uber's been kind of a controversial story or company, really because of the characters involved. And this book really goes into that and talks about everything that happened, but really goes over how this Uber idea came about, the beginning days, and then ultimately leading to Travis Kalanick leaving the company. It's so interesting too. Sometimes when you read business books, you'll recognize names from other people. I mean, Travis Kalanick, he had beef with Michael Ovitz, and obviously Michael Ovitz ran CAA. He wrote the book Who is Michael Ovitz? He was in Disney Wars book. So when I read Michael Ovitz, I thought that was funny, but sometimes that happens when you read about a bunch of different businesses. But I would definitely recommend this book. It's definitely a good drama, but obviously it's a real life drama, and it's a great book, so definitely read that. All right, next book we're going to be going over, The King of Content. This was an awesome book about Summer Redstone's battle for Viacom, CBS, and the everlasting control of his media empire. If my future kids just totally hate me like his kids hate him, I'm gonna consider myself a failure. But it's still a very good book. It goes into him starting Viacom and then his whole life with the business up until where he's at currently. I don't know necessarily if he's all there mentally now, but there's just a lot of family drama. So it was a very interesting read, and I would definitely recommend it to you. All right, next book that I would recommend to you is one of my favorites, John D. Rockefeller, Titan. This book is incredible. Pretty much every large oil company is a spin-off of his business. It's a great book. I would totally recommend it. This book is, how long is this? It's a pretty deep read. 680 pages. I actually listened to this on Audible. A lot of times, like I said, if I listen to it on Audible, what I'll ultimately do is buy it because it's nice to have on a bookshelf as a trophy. But I would totally recommend this. It was an awesome read. Goes back to the late 1800s, and it's just a fantastic read. The next business book we are going to be going over, My Father's Business by Cal Turner Jr. Cal Turner, his father started Dollar General, and then Cal was really responsible for scaling the business and turning it more to like a corporate business that it is today. I would totally recommend it. It's a great book. Again, seems to be the case in all these books. There was some family drama, which really makes for a good read. I actually had this book recommended to me because about 6 months ago, I had tweeted out that I was looking for more obscure business books, and there's a long thread on that. Maybe I'll include that down in the show notes, but this book was a great one that was recommended to me, and I'm recommending it to you. All right, the next book I'll recommend to you. This book was purchased for me by the Jeffrey Harvey Gannon for Christmas. Super Thinking, the big book of mental models. Obviously, anyone that knows me knows that I'm really interested in mental models. Of course, Jeff knows me and knows that, so he bought this for me for Christmas. It's a great coffee table book, and it's definitely one of those books that you're gonna reread multiple times, go back to it a lot of times just to get different information. Oh, look at this. I just opened this up, and look what we have right here. We have a Merry Christmas card, and you see that? That handwriting, folks, that perfect handwriting is not Jeff's handwriting, but I used this for a bookmark, apparently. But Super Thinking goes into a ton of different mental models, and it's a very interesting book. It's a good book to highlight a lot of stuff. And there's actually a quote on the back by Charlie Munger, says, "You can't really know anything if you just remember isolated facts. If the facts don't hang together on a lattice work of theory, you don't have them in a usable form. You got to have models in your head." Charlie Munger, investor, vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. Definitely get this book. You will go back to it often. Lots of mental models in there, and it's a good read. I mean, not to mention the title and the book and the way it looks is awesome. All right, next business book I'm recommending to you, How to Turn Down $1 Billion. This came out a couple years ago. It's about Snapchat and Evan Spiegel and all the drama that went on within the company. I think it was 2014, Facebook tried acquiring Snapchat, and then of course Snapchat went on to go public themselves a few years later for much more than what Facebook was trying to acquire them for. But this was just an awesome book going into the early days up into the acquisition and really just scaling the company. Of course, this company was a bit controversial in some ways as well. Evan Spiegel is pretty polarizing, I would say, but it's a great read. My biggest takeaway from this book, and I'm being 100% sincere when I say this, is if a company that was originally created to send discrete images between two people could go public for $10+ billion, then folks, anything is possible. The last book I'm going to recommend to you is a book that I'm about to crack open. I received it recently. It was recommended to me through Twitter. Moving the Mountain by Lai Lu, about his life in China before coming to the United States. I don't even think, and I don't know for a fact, but I believe he's not even allowed back into China, but I'm really excited to read this. Lai Lu is a great investor and definitely somebody to study. Anytime he puts out anything or there's any content that comes out from him, I'm always quick to read it. So I'm about to crack this book open here soon. soon. If you want to follow along and read it with me, definitely order it yourself on Amazon. That's all the books I got for you here today. If you have obscure business books that you have read and that you recommend, leave them down below in the comments. I'm always looking for new books to add to the bookshelf, and I really like books that a lot of people just don't talk about often. This is a special edition of BTFD, and of course I put apparently in parentheses because I was being a bit facetious. Interesting historical times going on. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and I'm really looking forward to doing these videos more often and just talking about everything that's going on. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, thumbs this video up, and we will see you on Monday.